Welcome back. Today we are diving right into this explainer with an absolutely energetic deconstruction of a true philosophical masterpiece. We are looking closely at chapter 26 of Nāgārjuna's fundamental text, the Mūlamadhyamakakārikā. This specific chapter, the analysis of the 12 components, is really where Nāgārjuna's high metaphysics meets the absolute delivery room of liberation. We're going to look at exactly how he completely reframes the traditional Buddhist cycle of the 12 links of dependent origination, totally transforming it from this rigid, inescapable chain of suffering into a profound, mind-bending demonstration of non-dual reality.
Section 1. The futility of forcing. Okay, let's dive into this.
So I want you to reflect on a super relatable human flaw for just a second. Think about a time you tried to forcefully stop a bad habit. You probably tried to just muscle your way through it, right? To just cut off that craving by sheer willpower alone. Well, in mainstream Abhidharma scholasticism, the practical key to breaking the cycle of suffering was often viewed exactly like this. It was sort of localized right at the midpoint of the 12 links, specifically using mindfulness to try and forcefully sever the link between feeling and craving. It was a very linear, very force-based approach.
But here is the radical intervention Nāgārjuna offers. Trying to stop craving and clinging through sheer mental force? It is completely futile. No way around it. Why? Because craving, it's really just a symptom. The true disease, the actual roaring engine of the wheel of suffering, is an active cognitive misapprehension. It's ignorance. And without eradicating this foundational distortion, the way we actively project inherent existence onto a world that's actually empty, any attempt to simply suppress your cravings is just an unsustainable band-aid.
Moving to Section 2, Ignorance as the Root.
Now, you're likely already familiar with the conventional sequence of the 12 links of dependent origination, going from ignorance all the way down to aging and death, so we aren't going to tediously list every single one of them. But I really want you to notice the underlying structure here. In chapter 26, Nāgārjuna maps this entire chain totally uninterrupted. He does this to show us that this cycle is essentially a framework. Sure, it traces the loop of cyclic existence, but it fundamentally, absolutely starts with ignorance.
Now what's really interesting here is what Nāgārjuna signals in verse 10. He writes, "Thus the ignorant people construct the conditioned things, that is the source for existence in flux." So what does this actually mean? It means the cycle isn't just some physical reality happening to you, it's an active mental construction. The entire cycle of the 12 links arises from an active cognitive misapprehension. We naturally create these concepts and then, here's the kicker, we forget their origin, and we start acting as if they are inherently real.
Section 3. Abhidharma versus Nāgārjuna.
Let's draw a really stark contrast here. The traditional Abhidharma view sees the 12 links as real, dependently arisen phenomena. It's like literal dominoes falling in a linear chain over time. And in that view, liberation is this tangible cessation you achieve by breaking the cycle, usually trying to stop it right at craving. Nāgārjuna, however, completely shatters this literalism. He argues that the links absolutely lack inherent existence. They're empty. They form a deeply interconnected cycle, definitely not a linear chain. For Nāgārjuna, liberation is not about stopping some real physical process of craving, but about ceasing the fundamental ignorance that constructed the whole illusion in the first place.
Which brings us to Section 4, a centerless, interconnected cycle. So the crucial point is understanding the lens Nāgārjuna uses to reframe everything. The union of the two truths. On a conventional level, phenomena, like the 12 links, are functional, right? They are a super useful framework for understanding how our suffering arises. But on an ultimate level, they are empty of inherent existence. They completely lack an independent essence because they only arise interdependently. Basically, they are mere designations within the mind's conceptual framework.
Think of it like a map versus the actual territory. The 12 links of dependent origination, they're really just another model. Sure, they're a brilliantly useful map, conventionally adapted as a skillful means to understand your suffering, but they're never reality as it actually is. Treating the 12 links as rigid, linear dominoes is a fundamental illusion. Our minds inherently imagine models, but the real problem pops up when we mistake those models for the territory itself, and we just become slaves to our own conceptual fabrications.
And this brilliantly illustrates what Nāgārjuna points out when he says the originating dependently we call emptiness. Because the links are dependently co-arising, they literally have no self-sustaining essence. Though they might appear to be a straight line, that is pure illusion. Actually, scratch that. It's not a line at all. It's more like a boundless, nonlinear web with zero inherent beginning or center. Aging and death loop continuously right back around to ignorance. It is a completely centerless cycle of conditioning.
Finally, Section 5, Transcending the Maps.
Let's see how this all builds up. Nāgārjuna pushes this even further, stating, "Through cessation of every component none functions. That single mass of sorrow is thus completely destroyed." At first glance, right, this sounds exactly like that dualistic Abhidharma approach, destroying inherently bad things. But when you read this through the middle way, this cessation isn't about forcefully destroying things or aggressively rejecting the links. It's entirely about ceasing to impute inherent existence onto them. It's about transmuting ignorance into wisdom by finally seeing straight through our conceptual models.
All right, so here are your climactic takeaways from this explainer. First off, liberation is definitely not about stopping all craving and clinging through sheer mental force. Furthermore, ignorance and wisdom, they aren't absolute, inherently existent opposites. They are literally two sides of the exact same empty reality. Ignorance is just the limitless flux viewed through delusion. Wisdom is that exact same flux viewed clearly. The 12 links are just a map. True freedom is transcending without dualistically rejecting all of our maps. And here is the ultimate, mind-blowing realization from the source material. Even the very framework of transmuting ignorance into wisdom is itself just another dependently co-arising map. True freedom is living fully, chopping wood and carrying water, without becoming a slave to any conceptual model whatsoever.
We want to leave you with this final, truly provocative thought. Nāgārjuna shows us that the 12 links, they're really just another map. All our concepts, our dualities, our entire intricate framework for understanding suffering, they are all just models we've built. So if your perceived reality is actually only a model, what happens when you finally see through it? Thank you so much for joining us on this amazing journey through Nāgārjuna's brilliant mind here on this explainer. Until next time, keep questioning the map.